Wow, so much time has passed since we recorded episode 19.
The best daddy joke I heard since the beginning of the war.
I'm so funny. I'm just hilarious. Some people might even say I'm hysterical, but I hate that word. Hi, I'm Amy Sapan. Welcome to October 7th, emotionally raw coverage. 𝕊𝕍𝔼𝔻𝒻, my illustrious partner in...
Illustrious?
Yeah, I love that word. Illustrious partner in... I don't want to use the word crime. Partner in...
Creation.
Partner in creation. Is kind of taking a back seat today as we have Jonathan 𝕊𝕍 with us in the studio.
I love your radio voice, Amy.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I suggest let's do a little bit of what's actually happening before we return to our conversation about this kind of new anti-Semitism stuff.
I think that sounds great.
Right?
Full disclosure, we're going to release this as if it was recorded on Thursday.
Right.
But it's actually Wednesday, November 1st.
And stuff is happening. So Israeli soldiers were killed in the ground maneuvers in Gaza a couple days ago, which was bound to happen. The moment people were talking about going into Gaza, we knew that the Israeli army will have casualties. Did you talk about the one kidnapped young woman released? So there was like a dramatic rescue of a kidnapped soldier, but the details are really vague. Like, they're not telling us everything about what's happening there. Was it a heroic rescue operation or was it something else?
But how could it be anything other than a heroic rescue operation? Like, soldiers went in there, and it's not like, she was just rolled out in a carpet onto the other side of the border. Like,
that's
people
true,
put
but
their
why
lives on the line.
Why don't they tell us there was a heroic? The wording in the reports is kind of vague.
In international media, the wording is vague and problematic.
No, but I think they're keeping a little bit secretive. They don't want to reveal exactly what happened. Like, there's always this. She was held at least part of the time by Hamas that I didn't really understand. Any case, she's home and safe, which is amazing. And we were hoping for release of more kidnapped people soon. And then there's the very kind of weird new front coming from the south. The Houthi in Yemen, which I tried to educate myself and read a little bit about the civil war in Yemen over this past decade plus. They're backed by Iran, and they're shooting missiles toward Israel. So far, I think shot down by American warships. Some of their missiles landed in Egypt, which is crazy. But that's happening too. What do you think about that, Amy? The Yemenites.
For those who no one really knows what's going on right now, but it's impossible to ignore what was happening right before all this started, which was the push to have a normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel.
True.
And Saudi Arabia, I'm not an expert on Saudi Arabia and Yemen, but I know that Saudi Arabia has been embroiled in everything going on with the Houthis.
Yeah. I think they're directly fighting against the Houthis, and they're backing this sort of Yemenite government, or what's left of it, in their war against the Houthis, for sure.
It's really wild. I mean, every day that's passing, every hour that's passing, I feel like every 5 minutes that are passing, there's something new. Like, if you told me 3 days ago that the Houthis are going to start sending stuff towards Eilat, like, I didn't think that would happen, but yet here we are. So, getting back to the format of the podcast for a second, we decided earlier this week that instead of meeting 5 days a week, originally we were meeting 6 or 7 days a week, and we scaled it back to 5 days a week. And now we're meeting a few times a week, because even if we were to meet 7 times a week, it wouldn't be enough. We'd still be missing a million stories. The same day that soldier was rescued,
Mm-hmm.
there were also more bodies found of kidnapped young women.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a roller coaster of emotions. Like within the course of an hour, you can see that news item on TV of that family reuniting with their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also see a news item about the women that didn't make it out alive.
Yeah.
So
People who were unsure of the fates of their loved ones until, official word, we found a piece of DNA and we know that your daughter is indeed dead.
yeah, and
That stuff.
about the fallen soldiers, last night I saw an interview with the parents of one of the fallen soldiers, and it was so... I was just blown away by the fact that they were able to be so composed on the air while they were speaking.
Mm.
And the father said something really beautiful. He said, I want to be speaking not from a position of pain, but I want to give some hope to the soldiers that are there, that we all hope you guys come out alive. And we're really praying for that to be the result. And if you want to be like our son or honor him when this is over, then please be gentle. Please be a sensitive person. Our son loved animals and life. Please honor our son by embracing that same sort of sensitivity. And wow, what a beautiful... Can you imagine, like, God forbid, losing one of your kids and then coming out with this message of just such... What a beautiful message of humanity. And I can't really finish the sentence because I'll start crying, but there's so much going on all the time.
Yeah.
Also, the 𝕊𝔼𝔼𝔼 refugee camp.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about that? That happened last night.
I'm not sure.
That's the refugee camp, I think, in North Gaza that was bombed in Air Force strikes.
Okay.
And many of the Hamas military commanders are said to have been there, including one of the guys who was one of the main architects behind the October 7th massacre, as well as other terrorist attacks that preceded it.
Mm-hmm.
And the tunnels, apparently, the tunnel network underneath the camp, because if you're... I'm not an expert on this, but I guess from what I understand, if you're bombing from, the sky, and then there are all these sinkholes appearing because the ground has holes in it because there's tunnels underneath it.
Yeah.
So these tunnels that are not being used to keep civilians safe.
Yeah.
Because as one of the Hamas leaders told, I think BBC yesterday,
I saw that.
It's not Hamas's responsibility.
These tunnels are for us.
It's
not for sheltering the civilians. If the civilians need shelter, the UN will take care of them.
Yeah, they even said it's Israel and the UN's responsibility to keep our civilians safe. The tunnels are for war purposes.
Yeah.
Which is
Insane.
crazy.
Insane.
So they have like war criminals hiding in refugee camps with innocent civilians. We know that they've been placing road bombs, keeping people from evacuating to the south.
Mm-hmm.
Egypt now is opening the border for limited purposes only for severely wounded Gazan civilians, but at the same time has also said, I think today or yesterday, we are ready to go. Millions, like we will die to protect ourselves from Palestinian refugees coming in, something like that.
The Egyptians,
yeah.
They don't want that to be their problem, which I understand. I also saw that they're letting out some. If you're a Gazan and you have a foreign passport, you can also get out. I saw.
Is that the latest? Because the latest I heard was that there are 500 U.S. citizens that are trapped in Gaza that Hamas is not letting move freely around the strip.
I think that was a good recap. Amy, there's so much. There's so much content. There's so much stuff going on. We'll never get through everything. I do want to come back because you're helping me understand the young American progressive people who I see online talking about Z.ionists, and I'm really trying to understand them. I want to understand how people can take this viewpoint. So you're saying some downright just don't believe anything. They don't believe. They think it's a hoax. It's a conspiracy. They just don't believe anything. And in their mind, Israel is the white colonizer. Palestinians are the brown people. They align with the brown people. They don't even really care about the facts or what happened on October 7th or whatever. Automatic suspicion of any information that comes from our side, and 100% belief in the righteousness of the Palestinian cause. But a lot of people are doing research and reading and explain it to me. How are they thinking this way?
Underdogs, white savior guilt shtick, and okay. Let's try to unpack that for a second, because I was also thinking about this. Like, okay, so have you ever been picked on at school or by friends or in your family maybe?
Yeah.
So sometimes people get picked on not because they're like mean, but because they really have their shit together. They get picked on because they're too pretty. They get picked on because they're smart. They get picked on because they like get the grades that are really good. And then everyone's like, oh, you're so lucky, or you just get everything.
What do you tell your kids? When your kid is getting shit from a bully, you tell your kid they're jealous of you. It's
but actually, some people really are jealous.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking about this yesterday. I wasn't thinking about it. I was talking on the phone with a really good friend, and I was like, you know, I'm so sick of this bullshit that like Israel, like that we're just a bunch of fucking like oppressors. Think about our history for a second. Like, think about the Independence Day War, like the Holocaust. People came out of the camps, displaced persons camp, like my grandfather was in Nazi camps, Soviet camps. Then he fought in the Independence Day War. A lot of people died in that war. Definitely not a war that we wanted to start. We didn't start it. And it's like, after everything we went through, we could be sitting here just like bitching all the time and be like, oh my God, they killed 6 million of us and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and just give us stuff all the time. And everyone needs to die. And we're going to go kill a bunch of Germans and we're out for revenge and blah, 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 blah. But that's not what we did. We grow tomatoes in the desert, Nobel Peace Prizes. You know, we have some of the leading technologists in the world that have developed crazy life-saving technologies. It's like we are moving on. Like, no one gave us handouts. Like, I'm not seen as the underdog because I'm like white and I'm pretty or whatever, but I'm first American born, and like no one was doing my homework for me behind the scenes. And then it's like you get to this position where you're like the hot girl. Israel's like the hot girl, basically.
Okay, to paraphrase.
Wait, I want to finish the hot girl thing.
Okay.
So Israel's like the hot girl. She goes to the gym. She like does her gua sha. She puts sea buckthorn oil on. Like, she's like has her shit together. Like, she eats right. She like takes care of her shit.
We're
she
perceived as the privileged.
Reads stuff. She like goes out there, studies, like tries to figure stuff out, tries to fix a problem. We got the desert. We can't grow stuff there. No problem. Let's try to figure it out. Netafim, and then we'll export that technology and we'll help other people solve that problem too. And then everyone's like poo-poo on Israel because they see it like the underdog. Like, there was that movie, Rudy. Do you remember Rudy?
Yes.
With the guy at Notre Dame, and he's like the tiny guy on the football team.
Right.
But the point of the movie...
Everybody loves an underdog story.
Everyone loves the underdog story, but I was thinking about Rudy yesterday. It's not that Rudy is just the underdog and doesn't do anything and doesn't like win. He's the underdog that goes and he trains and he practices and he like... He brings like an actual contribution to the fucking team. Nobody gave Rudy any handouts.
Okay.
And that used to be the underdog story. But now the underdog story is like, oh, no, they must have like, we need to just tear the hot girl down. And it's weird because the same people that are like super 𝕊𝕍𝔻 about this stuff, like they're probably wearing Skims and in the church of Kim Kardashian and like whatever the fuck. It's like, it's ridiculous to me that some people literally can be like the second wealthiest black person, like in their state and like richer than almost every other white person. But people will automatically be like, oh, they're so poor just because they're black, which to me is that is racist. Like, there's something so disempowering about being like, oh, well, you're like that, so you're going to stay in that category. It's like a caste system in India. It's like locked in. There's no room for like any sort of real intersectionality. There's no room for like any sort of emerging beyond what you were born in. There's no room for a mixing. There's no room because everything's either cultural appropriation, so we can't even exchange like our cultural things anymore. Like it's so fucking confusing and it's infuriating. Like Me Too infuriates me on some level as well. Because at what point do we say enough? Women also have agency, that they're not just victims, that we're not just victims. And then when we come out and we say, and we deal and we actively heal the trauma and we like deal with it and we get on top of our shit and we're not like running around like out for blood. And then everyone's just like, oh, fuck you guys. You guys are like a bunch of white privileged fucks. And the thing is, we're not only white here. We're like brown and black, and there's tons of people from around the world here, and there's like Asians, and then we're mixed. I mean, this is a melting pot country, and it's like, I am in pain. I don't want anyone to die, obviously, but this whole shtick that we're like not allowed to like defend ourselves, or we need to like die, or we need to apologize that we developed Iron Dome. Like, what the fuck?
You mentioned intersectionality, which I learned about recently. And there's a really, I think, kind of iconic story about a women's march or a lesbian march, where a Jewish woman put a Star of David on the gay pride flag, and they told her, you have to take that down. You can't march with us because this march is for oppressed people, and if we march for the gay community, we're marching for Palestine as well. That's my stupid, dumb understanding of intersectional.
It's not your dumb understanding. It is stupid. Like their position is stupid. You're not stupid.
It means
you know what
that if you're that, it sounds to me like it's really reductive. It means like if you're for. If it's like why Greta what's her face is pro-Palestine, because you're saying if you're fighting for the environment against the evil corporations, by definition it means you're fighting for gay pride against conservative values, and by definition it means you're standing up for native people, and by definition it means you're against Israel and pro-Palestine. That means that all the bad things are connected, right? And if we want to fight this one bad thing, we need to fight all the bad things. That's their logic in a nutshell.
But it's such a bullshit like thing.
I know it's bullshit. I just want to understand.
But you know why it's bullshit? Like, did you see the picture of Greta on the train from the other day? Like,
No.
It was a meme where people like have her. She's on the train and she's eating, and that's like a real picture. She's eating like something from a plastic container, and then there's like a bag of bread with plastic.
Gotcha.
And I was thinking about like, how ridiculous is this that she even has like single-use plastic on the table that she's eating from, and she's eating from single-use plastic, which, let's not forget, where do Ziploc plastic bags come from? Dow Chemical. They're a byproduct of the fossil fuel industry.
Of course, there's a lot of hypocrisy. I just want to make sure that I understand how they think. If they in the
virtue signaling world of it, like in that space where it's like, I'm pro this, so I need to be.
If you're a young person and you want to feel like you stand up for the right causes, and you're worried about global warming, and you want to make sure that there are abortion rights and all these things on the progressive left, you also, by definition, have to be pro-Palestine, anti-Zionist. Is that pretty much correct? Like, there's no room for, no, I'm going to be pro this and anti that. Like, you have to be part of that movement.
I don't know. I'm not in that age group and I'm not on those campuses, but that's definitely the impression that I get.
Yeah.
And it's selective. It's selective, right? Like when you look at, and oh God, I'm treading into this territory. When you look at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and where it was built, it was built onto the remains of the Second Temple.
Wait, hold on.
So there is this, who's the colonizer? Who conquested?
Of course.
Going back in history, it's like, if you take your perspective, and this is really new agey, but wherever you put your focus, wherever you put your attention, there it is. And that, maybe that's the button at the bottom of this, is that this is an attention. These are economies of outrage. Everyone makes money off of this.
I just want to try and understand them. If so far what we said, that's the thing. They feel like in their value system, they have to be pro-Palestine, anti-Zionist. And then they for some reason or other, with the type of propaganda that they read and the information that they're exposed to, they've come to say, we're not anti-Semites, we don't hate Jews, we love Jews, some of our best friends are Jewish, we only hate the Zionists. We only think that Zionism is bad. And then they say, from the river to the sea, right? In their mind, I just want to make sure that I have this correct. In their mind, Israel as a Jewish state should not exist. Is that correct, pretty much?
I mean, again, I can't speak for what they believe or what they don't believe, because the videos that I'm seeing on social media are every time like someone takes them to task and asks them a question,
they get confused and they don't even, it falls apart.
It falls apart.
They're not fully educated.
The reason that it falls apart is because it's not consistent, and you're looking for consistency.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the logic. The people that you said invited people to an event and said no Zionists.
But you're looking.
What do they want? What do they think?
Jonathan, if I may, you're looking for consistency where there is none. I think that the more interesting question is what is fueling this, and this is a generation that again doesn't really trust the banks. Doesn't really have as much economic mobility. At least the millennials don't, right? Like we're mired in debt. At least the American ones, poorer on average than our parents were coming from the middle class. So what do you have at the end of the day? You have your value system, and your values become your new, it's like, where do you place your care and how
your
you
identity.
signal your virtues? Like we used to have whatever music was on our iPod and who we followed on MySpace. So they have whichever causes they have. It's like their little pin buttons or whatever.
That's why they're so passionate and so loud.
Because that's what they own. Those are their assets.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have to like take it for 1 second, one step further. What is this economy? This is an economy based on outrage. The more outrage there is, the more clicks the attention-seeking technology, social media, news media gets. It's all about outrage. And these are economies that are based on outrage because these are attention economies. So I think looking for consistency here is like going down a dead-end road.
Gen Zionist. With the Z and the Zionist together?
Wow.
Too good.
But too good.
Okay,
my mind.
Now I want to say something from the bottom of my heart about אנטישמיות. I will say it in Hebrew, you will translate, ואז אני כזה אשים את זה אחד מעל השני.
אוקיי.
אתה נולד, כופים עליך את הישראליות שלך. אתה מבין את זה באיזה גיל, לא יודע, 20, נכון?
You're born and you get this Israeli identity pushed upon you, and you only realize it when you're in your 20s, maybe. Yad Vashem. Yeah, when you're a kid in Israel from a very early age, you're told about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, and you go to the museums and you hear about how the whole world is against us. Yeah, heroic stories about the soldiers and why it's important to join up and be a hero in the military. Yeah, you're 18, you go to the army and you suddenly find yourself in a combat unit and you're not really sure why. Maybe you're not a really hot athlete, but you sort of somehow got here. Maybe you want to impress a girl or something. What's the question? Okay. As you grow up, you shed the education gradually and the identities that were pushed on you. You meet people all around the world with different opinions and different identities, and you realize that being Israeli or being Jewish is not the only defining thing in your life. Yeah, you think of anti-Semitism as something from history, from the grandparents, from the Holocaust. You don't think it's a real thing.
או אפילו אתה מזלזל בה, אמרנו כאילו ג'ן זי.
You start to doubt the narrative. You're saying maybe this whole fear of anti-Semitism and the world is against us is just part of this machine that wants us all to be, good soldiers and good kids. Yeah, and you think it's a stupid boomer thing, the old people.
אולי הם צדקו?
Maybe they were right. Dor is having an epiphany. You're so funny, my friend. I love you so much. My young son. It's amazing that you had this epiphany on October 7th. I don't think you represent a large swath of the population. I think most Jews and Israelis had this epiphany years ago, or never even doubted it. The thing that you're describing of doubting this, it's a little bit because of your privilege. If you are a little bit poorer, or were living if your life was not so fucking wonderful, you would have seen this years ago, that it fucking sucks to be a Jew, even in 2023, and it's scary. You would, yeah.
And if you had lived abroad, which is something you've been fantasizing about, then you probably would have experienced it. But you haven't lived abroad.
When you were in Paris for a while, didn't anybody talk to you about Palestine and give you a little bit shit about being a Zionist pig?
Je parle pas français, je
voudrais
voudrais
I missed the France thing. He lived in France?
Yeah.
How long did you live in France for?
4 months.
Okay. He wasn't...
No, just for a while.
He was on a sojourn, but
Sojourn.
What I'm unnerved by is I lived in the States till I was 25. I've been to like North Florida or like central North Florida on the East Coast where like KKK members used to hang out and like have their little rallies and shit.
Yeah.
And it's not like they were like not okay only with the blacks. It would be like no blacks, no Jews, That's including at some of these colleges. And so then in Israel, everyone's like, oh, she's just like a boomer, sort of like that she knows about anti-Semitism. And then in America, the Jews that like, get to walk this weird line where they're just like, ceasefire now and not in my name. But at the end of the day, they don't have to deal, a lot of them, don't have to deal with either serving in the military, having a parent who served in the military, perhaps in a war, maybe came home with PTSD. They don't have to deal with that shit either. And if shit really hits the fan, they can just come and become citizens. No questions asked. No one's going to be like looking at their social media now, seeing if they were storming the Capitol. No, it's like privilege. I love you, Dor. I'm happy that you didn't realize it till now.
Good morning.
But
I remember feeling what you're saying.
It's wishful thinking.
In my early 20s, I remember I had a colleague at work at the 𝕊𝕋𝔸𝔼𝔻 show, a woman who worked with me, and she had relatives in Italy, Jews in Italy. There are not a lot of them, but there are Jews in Italy. And she told me, yeah, they're really worried about anti-Semitism and maybe they'll come to Israel. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? This is maybe like 2000. She said, yeah, they're anti-Semitism. Come on. There's no anti-Semitism. It's paranoia. I grew up, like you, in a very cool, hippie, everything's fine, the world is good, peace and love, let's accept everybody. I thought, like what you're describing, that anti-Semitism was all a scary, paranoid thing that they're telling us. So, yeah, I had that epiphany long ago, I'm sorry to say. It's amazing that it held up for you until October 7th. Yes, though, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, they want us all gone.
Maybe it's also wishful thinking, because there's something really heartbreaking to have to accept that reality, that it doesn't matter how good of a Jew you are, people want you dead. And really understanding or comprehending that and letting yourself really get that on a real level and come to terms with it and make a cup of coffee for it and sit with it and recognize it, it's so hard to do that it's something that can fuck up your whole framework for existing in the world, like what we were discussing in the last episode with Fight Club and that framework that collapses. And so there's also wishful thinking, and let's not discount that. Thank you to Jonathan Gall for coming into the studios today and for being a wonderful co-host as we navigate some very tricky terrain.
My pleasure. I'm going to come back. There's too much to talk about.
Oh, we would love that. I would really, really love that. And we'll also come up to 𝕊𝕋𝔸𝔼𝔻 if the offer still stands.
Yeah, set it up.
Thank you to 𝕊𝕋𝔸𝔼𝔻 Productions, 𝕊𝔸𝔽𝔼𝔻, Dor Comet. I'm Amy Sapan. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and stay tuned.